Hi, what's up? We're in the next part. Please go check out the previous part to gauge your bearings. I'm busy telling a story here about what's going on in the male and the female community. In the previous part, I was telling you a story about my ex-boyfriend and how it is that my heart got broken yet again when he basically suggested that if at all I was pregnant once when I had this pregnancy scare because I got sick and I was very vomity. And because I was vomiting, I thought I was pregnant. And when I told him that, what if I'm pregnant, he basically suggested that, abortion, that would be the way to go. And it broke my heart because there was a woman that came before me that passed him up, that had a kid with another guy, his best friend. I told you that story, blah blah blah, etc. And he was prepared to be the dad of this woman's child because he loved her that much. And yet here it is that he was telling me, who would have been his biological carrying mom, the woman who would have been carrying his biological child, telling me that if at all I was pregnant, that I should have an abortion, right? Yeah, okay. So my ex, it appeared, was still very much in love with this woman, and here it is that he was going to a party where she was going to be at, to a point where I wanted to get out of my pajamas, wear some clothes, and go, even though I was very sick. Of course, that didn't happen. He went home. Guys, I felt like I was being settled for, like I was a placeholder. Do you understand? That if this other woman made a decision that, look, I'm happy to be with you no matter what, that my ex would have just literally left me in the rain and gone to be with her. Nonetheless, that was another thing that happened. So because later, as time progressed, his brother's sickness became a whole thing, and because of his brother's sickness, he started to find more solace with his friends than with me. It's because of the fact that his boys knew his brother, the people pretty much that he came up with me, the brother, he was able to find more comfort with them than with me. So I felt very shut out, very left out. And among the people that knew his brother from childhood pretty much was this woman, right? She was among the females growing up with them, in the same community. I was just an outsider, and an outsider that apparently had taken a man away from them all because he was now spending all of his time with me. My ex, then somebody passed away, right? This woman that passed away before. It was in the run-up to his brother's. Was it in the run-up to, or was his brother already late? No, his brother had already passed away at this stage, right? His brother had already passed away, and I was there for him throughout it all, of course, right? And what have you. But my ex at this stage, remember I told you that he could hold his liquor. He started to drink in a way that was very tactless, and he was starting to slur when he was drunk and not be able to walk straight. He's drunk, he would drink to a stupor. And I set out a lot of my ex's rubbish during this season because, like I said, he lost his brother. So you don't kick a dog when he's down, and I imagine that he was mourning. Even though Nekerata complain and whatnot, I still stuck by him. And I imagine that this is going to pass. If this is a lifetime relationship, is on Lula, because his pain is going to get less and less over time. So I set it out. But one thing that I could not take in my stride, I could take my ex drinking like a dog and being irresponsible when we're out and basically making a fool out of himself. But all the other behavior, goodness gracious, whoa, that was on another level. Okay, one time, shortly after his brother passed away, and I know that his brother at this stage had died because he was no longer the main sort of topic of discussion in terms of sorrow in everybody's life, but it was now this new thing. There's a woman that I met very early in our relationship, pretty much maybe in month 1 or 2, that used to work for a radio station or whatever. She was young and vibrant and she had everything, and she was dating this other dude in the entertainment industry, blah blah blah, whatever, and things did not work out. They kind of fell apart, and because of that she killed herself. Anyway, so I knew this woman. I had met her. We had a conversation and laughed at a party one time. So my ex, like I said, I was there for him with his brother's funeral and everything. At that stage, his boys that he was always hanging out with now starting to neglect me for them. I told you, things fell apart really quickly with my ex and I. Within the first 6 months, things fell apart. My honeymoon phase, my honeymoon phase with him lasted 6 months, after which things started to fall apart. Alright? He was already starting to pass me shade. He was already starting to not want to spend time with me. He was already not taking my calls sometimes. He was already just weird. But every time I'd be like, okay, you don't want to be together, whatever, fine, let's break up, he would then be like, no, but baby, I love you. So I just I didn't know what in the world to do. I thought that maybe he was just mourning, and so whatever, we'll ride this one out. My boyfriend went on right ahead, right? This woman that died, I had up until that point, I had there hadn't really been many deaths. In fact, that was the first. Was it the first? That was the first funeral that the first death that basically there had not been. Yes, I'd been to funerals with my ex over over the years of people that passed away in the circle of friends, because yeah, the youth do die sometimes. But I think that was the first one. And again, because it was the first one that was not in his family, right? For me, it was like, guy, what are you saying? What are you saying about who I am to you if you don't want me to go with you? Some woman committed suicide, right? Because over some guy, like something foolish of that nature. She committed suicide, and everybody now was basically not only going to but the funeral and then the after tears and what have you. Because my boyfriend's friends were already busy being like, does Karabo really have to be everywhere? Does she really have to be everywhere? He literally shut me out of the funeral of a person that we both knew, but that knew him more. He's the one that introduced me to her. I was like, I thought I was the kind of girlfriend that you take to weddings and funerals. Heck, dude, I've met your family. I've met your sister, your late brother. I have met even your brother in prison, for crying out loud. I have met your mom, your dad, your aunts, your uncles, your kids. I know even where one of your family members that live outside of Johannesburg live, because we've traveled there with your family, and I spent the whole day in another province with your family. That's that's how much of a girlfriend I am. Unless your family members are so immoral so as to accommodate some other woman as your main, and yet they also are happy to basically embrace me, that you would ever go to such important events as funerals and weddings. My boyfriend shut me out of the Khutsirisa. That would be the comforting week when you go to the family of this girl. No, he did not shut me out of that. No. Because I remember just like on the day or two, a day or two after this girl passed away, my cousin, right, that I met my boyfriend through, and my cousin's boyfriend and my boyfriend, we went to go and Tidisa at this girl's house during the week, and I expected that my boyfriend would then travel with us as well on the funeral, basically invite us, say, guys, let's go to the funeral together of this girl, because this girl had also been to my cousin's apartment when we were busy driving it up a storm, and we were all happy to go and support my boyfriend, who was the only one out of all of us that really knew this girl well, right? We were basically trying to support him, and he shut all of us out. He shut my cousin's boyfriend out, who was his boy. He shut my cousin out, me, so that he could rather be with what I came to conclude was this other woman, this Jezebel lady that was the bane of my sister. I told you that after that day when my boyfriend told her about the Durban July, I was comforted because he basically dissed her, telling her, I'm not going to be buying you fascinator hats, and I got comforted. But then things that started to happen thereafter. On that day, that woman declared war with me, and the things that started to happen thereafter made me realize that my boyfriend would do anything to spend time with this woman with me not being there, insofar as they're amidst each other as a conglomerate of people that grew up together, that were on the come up together. So he shut me, my cousin's boyfriend out, okay? And it really broke my heart. My cousin did not read too much into it, because I remember she telling me that Karabo, maybe he just wants to, experience this time with his friends because they all knew him together, and you might also feel kind of like a sore thumb and stick out. And I sort of kind of listened to my cousin and took it in my stride and swallowed it, but I was still hurt because something told me that the reason why my boyfriend doesn't want me to go to the funeral of this woman that committed suicide was because that other lady was going to be there, and also because his boys had been giving him pressure about the fact that does Karabo have to be everywhere? She's always with you. Now, what in the world? So he went to funeral having literally been like, wait, he didn't tell me in so many words that I don't want you coming with me. But you know when you tell somebody that you and you alone are going to funeral, it's like he said it this way to me. Let's say her name was Fifi, the girl that killed herself. He was like, I'm going to funeral, yeah, Fifi, I'll be back to see you later at 5 p.m. Yeah, so basically he was saying, I'm going alone. He didn't say, I don't want you coming with me. He just made the call and was like, I'm going to funeral ya Fifi le Sizwe. I'll come see you later afterwards, after the whole thing. He suggested it. He dropped it in a hint that you're not coming with. He basically told me you're not coming with. And I was so heartbroken because for me it was like, why wouldn't you want me to go with you? Why wouldn't you want me to go with you to the funeral of one of your friends? Is this really, like, what's going on? That's when I started to sense, pick up, gauge that maybe his friends are influencing him away from me. And also he will do anything to spend spent time with this random female. Yes, that's where that woman, this odd woman, right, that was wreaking havoc in my life. I didn't even get to meet her on at the brother's funeral, because remember I told you she was a flight attendant, so she couldn't be there. I'd never got to meet this woman until like a couple of years down the line, and when I saw her I was like, this is what you gave me a whole bunch of grief over. I met her sister first, even before I met her, and I'm gonna get to that story, okay, just a little bit later. Like, yeah, at some point I'm going to have to like probably take a bath and then come back to finish the story. Yeah, okay, so my boyfriend went to that funeral. That's when the thing started to look really funny for me. Really funny. It's like he was icing me out. And it really, really broke my heart. And at the same time, he was constantly hanging out with this one friend of his that does not live very far from me, right? Like at the time when I was dating him, in this particular season, they give like in this very complex, but my mom had another unit number, like just not far from here. We moved out and then she came back to this complex because she liked it. Okay, yeah. This dude used to live not in the same neighborhood, but like Little Falls, Steuben's Valley. Unadula around this guy, and it was one of my boys. My boyfriend's friends. This friend of my boyfriend, you know when they say a man is cunning, conniving, just deceptive. He was so sweet. Yo, this guy was so sweet. He was kind. He never passed shade, gave attitude, nothing. Yes, just a nice, warm guy. Onadula smile. And for me, I thought he liked me. I thought that he was just such a cool guy. And I never under heaven would have ever accused him of any wrongdoing if it did not become clear that him and his conglomerate of friends in that particular hub of life are definitely responsible for whatever's going on with my boyfriend. It was clear that it was him because of how much time my boyfriend was spending with him around the same time that everything fell apart. But to me, he was so cool. He was so kind. I would have trusted him with my life. This guy, the way that he was such good people's. But it later got revealed to me by the Lord, once I got saved, that he was instrumental in breaking my ex-boyfriend and I up. He was instrumental not only in the physical things that he said and did, but spiritually. He broke us up, and God told me that the reason why his boy broke my ex and I up was because he was in love with me. I told you, he lived in my neighborhood, and after meeting me through my ex, apparently what was always ringing in his mind was, why didn't I meet her first? Why didn't I happen upon her at the spa buying break? Or just Jay, like, how does this woman live in my neighborhood and she ends up dating my boy living all the way in the south of Johannesburg? How does this even happen? And apparently this guy was literally among the most instrumental forces that shattered my relationship with my ex, both in a physical capacity as well as a spiritual one. Because when physical weapons did not work, he turned to witchcraft. And he also ended up being among the most he also ended up being among the most guilty of what ultimately happened with my ex, wishing that he could basically reverse things, because at the end of the day, my ex is his friend, not was, but is his friend still, right, to this day, and he loved him. But like I told you, men compete kabasadi, and they low-key covet, envy, desire, long for virtuous females. And when one of their boys has one, they will break them up, act like it ain't a thing, and influence these men unto Jezebels, only for them to later regret everything that has happened, because they hated when their boys are suffering. They hated when their friends are suffering, but they brought their suffering along. Anyway, this guy, right, alongside other of my ex's friends, but he was among the most instrumental, him and his like circle of rando influences. He was busy. He was very, very busy. Like, he was a sweet dude. And for as sweet as he was, I, for the life of me, could not understand why he could not keep a girl. Or, no, not even so much to keep a... It's not like these women were dumping him. These women were not dumping him. They wanted to be with him. They wanted to stay with him. But he kept leaving them. He just could not stay with one woman for longer than a certain amount of time. Yeah, that was this guy. In and out were women coming out of his life. I should have known from that this is somebody that I just need to be very wary of. Like, yeah, I need to be wary of him. But I can't tell my boyfriend, I don't want you hanging out with this person or that person. But I just need to be, like, yeah, I should have known. But anyway, whatever. He was very sweet, and so I sort of kind of let my guard down around this guy. Had no idea that he was holding some personal feelings. Like, why in the world did he let himself fall for his boy's girl? Like, I don't get it. But then again, my ex had such a wild transformation after coming together with me that was observable by all of his friends, that he likely probably was like, she's a good girl, she's got all of these stats, and on top of that, look at how improved Nonti's life is ever since this chick came into his life. What would I give for a woman so stable, so sober? But he was in and out of a whole bunch of women, some of which I just felt like, Mona, you can rest, guy, like, come on, relax. But they kept coming in and out. It's like there was just a lack of satisfaction in his life concerning women. I don't know what was going on there, but I think with this guy, more than anything, it was a generational curse, because his dad was like that. He had multiple sons and daughters and like just a whole bunch of kids across all of South Africa, his father. So I guess, you know, guys, unless you give your life to Jesus Christ, you will inevitably become your father's son or your father's daughter, your mother's son or your mother's daughter. You will inevitably commit the mistakes of your parents. So this guy was just bound to end up just like his dad, baby daddy of a whole bunch of children across multiple baby mamas with no stability all the way into your old age. And out of all the women you married, you never even married the one that you actually loved. Like, you just keep messing up. This dude was already on a highway to hell because of his generational curses. He had brothers all over and sisters, South Africa. Anyway, whatever. His dad was a bit of a Jacob Zuma. Alrighty, cool beans and bananas. So this guy could not for the life of him just accept that my boyfriend had found mercy, he had found love, he had found a good woman. He was gonna shatter that, and like I said, he ended up being among the most guilty. So this guy is the one that my boyfriend went to the funeral of this him and the conglomerate of friends. He went to the funeral of this female of this girl that committed suicide with this guy. And I remember just thinking, what name did I give him? Let's say his name was Sizwe. The Sizwe guy, I was like, Sizwe lives in my neighborhood, dude. Couldn't you and Sizwe just pick me up? I didn't tell my boyfriend that, but I was thinking it. When he told me he went to the funeral with Sizwe, I was like, Sizwe lives in my hood, so close that y'all could actually jog to my house. So couldn't you first pick me up in the morning and then drive to the funeral? Why? Well, Sizwe was among the men that kept on telling my boy, do you have to keep bringing Garabo? I mean, dude, like, stretch your legs a little, man. You need to relax. Plus, she doesn't really understand much of what you're going through because she's new in your life. We get your pain. We get yo, guys. Yazi, evil, just like, yeah, anyway, whatever. It broke my heart to find out that Sizwe is the one that went with my ex to the funeral. I moved on, but nothing ever improved from that day. I believe my ex-boyfriend would give anything at all to hang out with this woman, right? Insofar as he can get an opportunity to be alone with her, he would do it. And he wanted his boys to see him cheating on me with her, or flirting with her, doing whatever. Unabata wants his friends that he's not whipped and he can let loose with any other woman. So he often left me out of things just so he could display to his friends that he's not altogether taken, and in the process shattered me, in the process broke me. Remember, I told you guys that me and him, we never used to use protection, doing the dirty or whatever. One time I told him that I went for an HIV this was, we were yet still to move in together. I had started to pick up that he was acting funny, he was no longer the same. All this happened, guys, like 6-7 months into a relationship. Like, it's still so early. We should be in honeymoon phase. We should be in my honeymoon phase. At this stage, his brother had already passed away. He had started to pass me shade. We had stopped spending as much time together like weekends. During the week we were always talking, but as soon as come Friday, Saturday, Sunday, basically the way that his boys were, he was like that with me. He started to not give me all his time, but some of his time. He started to give me the weeks, but on the weekends he would ice me out. I would not be able to reach him, contact him, talk to him, because he did not have his own apartment. Neither did I. We used to book into hotels, but it stopped being every weekend. He would just go zombified on me all weekend, and I would get so mad. Yo, guys, I would get so mad. He would switch off his phone. Yo, I would get angry, and I would, like, there was a time when this man was scared to lose me, and whenever I threatened to dump him, he would, like, basically jump up and down. Remember I told you the first time I threatened to dump him, that whole drug story? He basically cried all up in my grill. This time around, he was basically daring me to do it, because he started to trust that I'm not going anywhere. He saw how in love with him I was, and how much I was just taking everything in my stride, and he started to act such a violent fool. And then when we were together, partying it up a storm, he would drink so much that he was just barely recognizable. He was just barely recognizable. So because I started to notice funny, strange behavior on his part, and also I started to notice that he was hanging out a lot at Sizwe's even during the week, to a point where he was even going to work from there sometimes, and yet he wasn't even coming to see me. I lived in the same neighborhood as Sizwe. Sizwe could have driven him to my place because he didn't have his own car, like I said, and just helped him check. And yet it didn't happen. I was like, but you spent the whole week go ha Sizwe. Why didn't you just come and hang out with me for an hour and then, you know, go back to Sizwe's? Dude, you're in my hood. And again, I was like, Sizwe is sweet. He wouldn't have been unprepared to, you know, just like basically help. Like, I go drive uyo check immediately. He wouldn't have given you grief. But it turns out that Sizwe was passing him shade. The Sizwe's apartment where he used to stay, right, was just this house in Itletsika, lots of young people activity, like upuza, drinking, partying, yeah, in and out. People used to hang out there. So sometimes even during the week, there'd be a little mild party going on at Sizwe's house. Guys, you know, when I find things out, I find them out. When I found things out, man, did I find them out. I started to suspect that he was cheating on me, right? Because he was acting a total fool, and I had no way of figuring out. That's when I basically walked away from him. His mom called me, and she then told me, my son is not into women. He's not a womanizer. He's not a player. So, Karabo, your suspicions are unfounded, right? That was what the mom was telling me, but I was like, I know what I sniff and what in the sky, what I can tell. Like, I can tell, right? Anyway, you know, when you are too in love with the person to break up, you're not ready. I also be ready. I'm more this thing. You want it to work. You want the old thing to come back. Anyway, whatever. I decided to trick him into basically confessing that he cheated on me. And I told you guys that we never used to use protection sexually, right? So one day I basically said to him, I asked him, I was like, are you cheating on me? I remember we were on the phone and I was at the office. I should have waited until nighttime to basically break down on the floor and cry. I asked him in the office there on the phone, I'm like, Nonti, are you cheating on me, dude? Are you cheating on me? Mind you, the whole Sizwe incident was not the only one that made me suspect he was cheating. This was the second time that I was suspicious of cheating, because there was a time when he spent an entire weekend and he didn't call me back, and he was with that guy that I told you had the maidie whose side piece was working in my office. He spent the whole weekend there, and I was like, what in the world? I know that guy, and if you are gonna basically switch off your phone on me with that guy, maybe you also had a side piece. Maybe the two of y'all had Nelibambile that night, and you had your side pieces at his apartment at the expense of me and that guy's main chick, Mary. Anyway, whatever. I had that suspicion already long ago, and I asked him, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks prior to that date, I was like, did you cheat on me that weekend? Did you sleep with some other woman? And I tried to drag it out of him. I told you my ex couldn't lie to me, but this time around he was not about to just flat out admit that he cheated. So he was just uncomfortable, and that disquiet, me knowing how he is when he's speaking the truth and when he's trying to be deceitful, made me basically trick him into confessing, because I needed to know I'm not out here in these streets protecting myself with this guy, and I thought he was proper on the straight and narrow with me, because even his mom is out in these streets telling me that he's not the cheating type, and she was right, but his boys made him the cheating type. Like, when a man is with a woman that guys could not care less about, they won't influence him negatively concerning this woman, but when they are with the kind of woman that in and of themselves they covet to be with, they will make him cheat. Yes, it's just so destructive. The devil uyamosha. Anyway, I decided to basically trick my boyfriend into confessing, and I'm chilling at work, goes too long, rotating on it, go calls ending in between calls, in between like in a break or whatever, and I'm like, dude, are you cheating on me? Like, Nonti, are you cheating on me? Just confess and let me know if you're cheating on me. And he was like, no, babe, I told you I'm not cheating on you. What's wrong with you? I would never do that. I was like, well, I took an HIV test. Guys, his response. I was like, well, I took an HIV test. Instead of being like, so what? Of course it's negative. You and I both, we have taken tests. We are both negative. When we started dating, that's what we did. So what? King, you took an HIV test, so what? Instead, you know what his response was? And yo, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, sizani bo tusang ken nakopa leng teng metsing cause ke kolobeditswe mo ke nontsontsho. Hey banna, this guy responded by asking me, and basically he was like, what was the result? I was like, I took an HIV test, and he was like, and he was trying to find out if I was positive, and he gave me the disease. Why would he do that? If he had not slept with a woman, never mind slept with someone else, but also did it unprotected. Yazi, that answer, I was at work, I was burning, I was sweating, I was like Yes, you guys, yes. I was like, why under heaven would you ask me what the result of my HIV test is if you didn't cheat on me? At which point he realized I had tricked him into confessing. And then he was like, baby, I told you I didn't cheat. Like, I have not cheated on you. I was like, then why under heaven were you uncertain of your HIV status? In which case, guys, I hung up the phone. I panicked. I freaked out. I panted. Paced the floor. I was in so much pain. I remember that day I got in trouble. I got a final written warning in the office because I had confirmed that my ex cheated on me, okay? And I basically stopped taking calls. I let them reroute. They would come through, and instead of answering them, I would let them reroute. My boss checked my activity on the monitor, and he saw that I was doing this, and he called me into his office and was like, "Garba, come in." He was so mad at me. He was like, "What in the world are you doing?" Basically just told me off, and then gave me a final written warning on the spot saying that if I make yet another mistake, I'm fired. Yo, guys, I almost lost my job because I was devastated because my ex-boyfriend, I had just found out that the man that I love, like life itself, like it's the breath in my lungs, had slept with another woman. For me, it was just the imaginations. Like, I could not stop. Like, throughout, after finding out, guys, first of all, at the end of the working day, I called him again and I probed and probed before I even left the office. Like, literally, it's like, 5 p.m. and he in and of himself is knocking off. And I was like, did you cheat on me? Did you cheat? He refused to confess. Right? At that stage. Fine, we got off the phone. I still had no proof, but I felt like I had sucked it out of him. The next thing for me now was to get an HIV test for real. Like, for real. It was to go and get an HIV test for real. And indeed, I did go and get one, like, maybe the following day. Where did I go? To the doctor. I went to Medicross. And I went there literally just purely for the sake of getting an HIV test. And the doctor gave me the results on the phone. And that's how I knew that it was negative, right? I was still negative, but for me it was like, hey, maybe I'm inside the window period. So don't get excited just yet. I ultimately took another one a couple of weeks down the line from that date. Basically, I was negative. But the fact that he slept with another woman without protection, for me, it was like, what the heck? Like, what in the world? This is what we do. Like, you are gonna give me a I'm young. Like, what in the world? You're not gonna go and ruin my life like that. So because I just could not get these thoughts out of my mind, ultimately one time my sister had like a braai at her apartment, like some little get together. My boyfriend came with. I was still holding on for dear life to this thing. I, for the life of me, could not let go. I could not let go. This is gonna be the final part. Right now I'm gonna go and take a bath, and then I'll come back and finish these stories, okay? Yeah, what? No, I couldn't let go. For me, it was like, I need proof. I need evidence. I need this guy to come out. I could not rest. And at that get together at my sister's house, right? At that very get together at my sister's house. Okay, no, I'm wondering what in the world is going on. Hey, what's going on there? Anyway, whatever. Let me just finish this part. At that get together at my sister's apartment, I was a killjoy. I was just flat. I couldn't be fun and exciting for anybody. That was memad there. Basically, couldn't stand me because I was just I was moody and mean because I was hurting, and my boyfriend was there, and in and of himself naive because we should have just stayed home type thing. And I'm like, no, I took him to the balcony of my sister's apartment, and I was like, did you cheat on me again? I tricked him into confessing, just like that other time with the drugs, where I told him I just want the truth so I can have peace. I've already taken an HIV test and it turned out negative, so I'm not sick and you are likely unsick too. But all I want to know at this point is if you did it, because the truth is going to give me closure. I'm going to be able to move on, and I promise I'm not going to dump you. I told him I promise I'm not going to leave you. I just want the truth, and also just the guarantee that you're not going to do it again. And he took it. He melted, and he was like, yeah, I did. He confessed to me. Just go. Okay, he confessed to me, right? He was like, yes, I did. And instead of immediately panicking and throwing my toys off the cot, I wanted information. I wanted to know how many times he did it, because I suspected already another time before and also the second time. And I could connect what I imagined to be his cheating to 2 separate occasions in 2 separate friends' apartments. I wanted to know if he had done it more than once. So I kept my cool. And I was like, I basically asked him the questions, right? On some, what did I give that guy's name? Sizwe, right? I was like, was it at Sizwe's apartment? I just asked him, was it at Sizwe's apartment? With who? What was Yeah, and indeed he confessed to the Sizwe's apartment cheating. He basically was like, I was drunk and like I was not thinking straight, and there was this girl that I told you that Sizwe's apartment was this like random place where parties would just happen all the time. He was like, there was just a girl there and she is the one that seduced me. She was flirting a whole bunch with me and I kept on telling her I have a girlfriend, and she was like, she doesn't care. She told me that she was not looking for a relationship, just a good time for the night, and she thought I was cute. And so like as he's busy telling me these things, my heart, like it sank into my stomach and then got digested and like properly regrew in my chest and beat hard until it bled. And goodness gracious, I just listened to him explain how it is that he cheated on me, and I knew Sizwe's apartment, and I just imagined him basically, like for me it was a duplex. You were downstairs when you met this girl. Rarely anybody goes upstairs. The bathroom is downstairs, everything is downstairs for the guests. So to finally end up having sex, you would have to literally stand up off those couches or those dining room chairs downstairs, go up the stairs, actually open Sizwe's bedroom window and go and do it there. I doubt it was in the car or even right there in front of everybody. You were given space and time, and Sizwe with his boys and everybody there watched you go upstairs and basically cheat on the woman that all of them imagined you never could do anything wrong to. It's like they hit a bullseye that night. It's like that night Sizwe finally got my boyfriend to do what needed to be done to basically shake up my relationship and ransack it. I just imagined these friends of his watching him do what he would never fathom to do. A guy that loved his girlfriend so much that he was always with her until his boys pressurized him into leaving her out of events and parties and gatherings. And then he meets some woman that is a loose cannon happy to do one night stands, and he ends up going upstairs with her, literally disrobing and having sex with her without even asking, guys, does anybody have a condom? All these things, I just imagined them, and it was only once he confessed to me that I basically lost my mind at my sister's apartment. I lost my mind. I lost my mind. I lost my mind. Guys, I lost my mind, alright? I lost my mind. And we were argumentative the whole time, to a point of my sister getting really irritated with me because it was one of those Lonnie Santon apartments that everybody was like, shh, at. And I was like, whatever, y'all, like, I gotta go anyway. We had that night booked into a hotel, and I was not about to lose money. We were not about to lose money from booking because we'd already paid. We went there and continued to not only fight, but I continued to probe and probe. But because of how angry I was, he refused to confess to the second one. And he was just now listening to me argue all night. He stopped talking. And he was just listening to me cry and complain and imagine. And when I was basically saying, you probably did it too at, let's say, the other guy's house was Zama. You probably did it at Zama's place too that other time when you wouldn't answer the phone all weekend. That probably happened too. He just kept quiet the whole night because he realized that he's not gonna get anyway, and it's gonna go off if he dares argue. Futi hotel, we're not gonna go and cause a scene, go town lodge. So he just kept quiet, and I sobbed and cried like the whole entire night. I could not stop imagining him with these women. I could not stop imagining him, like everything that he did to me, him doing it to them. And what's worse is that I could not imagine him going into them without protection, despite putting my life in danger. I did not recover for guys, I think it took me about 4 months to basically bounce back. And despite it taking about 4 months to bounce, I said I wouldn't dump him. I didn't. I don't even know why I didn't leave him. I was not ready. I wasn't ready. I just, when you are not ready to, he denied. Not only did he confess that one, right? Refused to confess to the other. Because of how much I was busy crying and complaining, he made a decision to go right back to reverting to denying everything too. So I got a confession and a retraction of a confession, and just like still to this day, I'm not sure if he confessed only because I pulled it out of him and he just wanted peace, or if he actually did it. But one thing that is certain is that when I told him I took an HIV test, and he was like, and I knew from there that not only was this guy cheating on me, but he's also doing it without a condom. So I didn't break up with him, but it caused such a rift between us that was already there, and all of my crying got to a point where it stopped even being too effective on him, but it started to like irritate him. But I was no longer the apple of this guy's eye, but for whatever reason, every time I threatened to leave, he would just like beg me to stay, and I was like, hey Lena, what is this rubbish? That is what men can do in their boys' lives when these boys of theirs have got good girls, and that is what women are prepared to do when a man is in love with a woman. They are happy to function as a seed sown of discord, just so no woman out here in these streets can be happily loved by a man. Let me go and take a shower. When I come back, I'm probably going to be very shiny on the face because of all of my moisturizers. We'll finish this story then. Bye.